Hi, I'm laserdisk, and I talk about things on the internet. Now, it may seem kinda out of character, but I actually like Dream SMP. You know, that guy.
This video, we coded it so that I am in love with George Not Found. I love women and also George Not Found. I hate MXM Tune. My name is Dream and I am a bitch. Also, Tommy N is the man and the best. I love gaming and girls. Gamer girls. PogChamp. I hate.
But I legitimately think it has a pretty good story. And I especially like the villains, so I'm gonna explain these Minecrafters' intricate story and analyze their characters for fun. Yippee. Now, this might not make a lot of sense if you don't know the story, but who cares? I mean, it's Minecraft.
But if you want to be a hero, Tommy, that's fine. That's fine.
Technoblade, don't do this.
Don't do this,
We're
Techno.
so
don't.
close.
If you want to be a hero, Tommy,
We've got
if you want to be a hero, Tommy, then die like one!
Technoblade started out as an ally and founder of L'Manberg, but as the government began to be more and more corrupt, he decided to leave and started developing anarchistic tendencies. The day the president, known as Schlatt, canonically died, Tubbo quickly rose to power. Now Techno started to see them replacing one tyrant with another, and attempted to end the regime before it had the time to get off the ground. He swiftly spawned multiple withers and started slaughtering the masses. Techno is inherently a lawful neutral character. He only blew up L'Manberg because he saw history repeating itself. And after that didn't work, he eventually moved into the Arctic and built a nice little cabin with Filza and Ranbu. Eventually, 3 players known as the Butcher Boys started to track down Techno and attempt to publicly execute him. When they eventually did find him, they led him to the least reliable trap known to man, just allowing him to pop a totem of undying and ride away on a horse with Dream. After this, Techno decided to ally with the recently exiled Tommy Innit, which really isn't important at all, but it does lead to my favorite arc in the entire SMP. Because it's got Connor Eats Pants, baby! Let's go. Connor Eats Pants supremacy. Anyway, Techno and Tommy meandered their way on over to L'Manberg in order to get Techno's weapons back, which were taken by Tubbo during his execution. Using the sewer systems, they emerged into Connor's house, and they took him as a kind of ransom, believing he was a member of L'Manberg. He wasn't. They took Connor on over to Tubbo and the double agent Ranbu, eventually getting his axe and sword back. Then Techno just chilled with Tommy and Phil for a while until Tommy decided to betray him, moving back on over to his former L'Manberg partner, Tubbo. After this, Techno decides to try to destroy the government again, this time with the help of Dream, ending the L'Manberg saga once and for all. And this time, he really did it. I mean, he turned it into a chunk error. It is just gone. And as of now, he's just kinda sulking around with Phil and Ranbu. They're just chilling. Now, I think the one thing that makes Techno an actual good character is this tiny little spot in the timeline. This thing that lasted like a week. In this amount of time, Techno was trying to be a pacifist. And this just adds an immense amount of depth to the character. I mean, he was once known as the Blood God, and then he just like, itsy bitsy pacifist man, I live in the snow. And even when he was the itsy bitsy little pacifist man who lived in the snow, the Butcher people were just still trying to kill him. Quackity Fundy and Tubbo were still tracking him down, and even went in a 1v4 with him. And he still won. He won a 1v4 when he was a pacifist. Now, I hate to say it, but it was society that stopped him from being a pacifist. It was society that made him a villain. Have you ever seen Batman? This is just what happens when you hate orphans. And I genuinely do think that these 2 weeks of pacifism add 100 times more depth to the character and make him probably the best written character in the entire SMP.
What do you... Wilbur, are you sure...
My first decree as the president of L'Manberg, the emperor of this great country,
Wilbur, surely not. Will.
is to revoke the citizenship of Wilbur Soot and Tommy Innit.
No!
Yes, baby, yes! I'm out of here!
And now, I finally get to talk about my favorite member. He's a corrupt capitalist with sadistic tendencies. Much like Techno, he easily fits into an alignment chart. Lawful evil this time. Schlatt's first day on the SMP, he was banned. It's not canonical or anything, I just think it's funny. His actual first day, though, he was invited on to endorse Wilbur and Tommy's political campaign, but he went rogue and made his own, known as Schlatt 2020. Quickly, Wilbur's political opponent, Quackity, said he would merge all of his votes with Jay Schlatt's, making him Schlatt's vice president if he does get elected. And now George, who was Quackity's vice president, is really like a vice president. It doesn't matter. It's really weird. I don't get it. Come the day of the election, Jay Schlatt won by 1 vote, and as I already showed you, his first decree as president of L'Manberg was to evoke the citizenship of Wilbur Soot and Tommy Innit. After their banishment, Wilbur and Tommy went off to form Pogtopia, basically Manberg, but lame. The residents decided to send out a spy, though, in the form of Tubbo. Schlatt continued to run his political campaign, now with Tubbo at his side. Eventually there was a festival held to lift the overall morale, but it ended up doing the exact opposite. Turns out Schlatt knew about the double agent thing from the very beginning, so he encased Tubbo in yellow concrete and forced Technoblade to execute him. During the festival, Wilbur rigged TNT all under L'Manberg, which really isn't important for a while. Jay Schlatt continued his tyranny until the 16th of November, where a war broke out between Manberg and Pogtopia. Eventually, Pogtopia emerged victorious and surrounded Schlatt until he had both a heart attack and a stroke at the exact same time, which obviously killed him for good. Jay Schlatt is a textbook capitalist, and he constantly ran off the ideology that he'd rule until the next election, as at the bottom line he did win fairly, so in a way, is he really in the wrong? He's not just a black and white villain either. Everything he's done has had its own convoluted reasoning, and that's why I think Schlatt is a perfect villain.
Once part of the Manberg, a traitor, I don't know if you heard of Eric.
Yeah.
He had a saying, Phil. It was never meant to be.
Oh my god. You didn't. Oh my god! Will! It's all gone!
My L'Manberg, Phil! My unfinished symphony, forever unfinished! If I can't have this, no one can, Phil!
In the very beginning of the SMP, everyone resided under one ruler, Dream, but as he slowly started to shift into megalomania, the people who noticed formed a nation, known as L'Manberg. For a pretty long time, Wilbur, Tommy, and Tubbo ran this country uncontested, until the citizens started to see Wilbur slowly turning into what Dream was, a megalomaniac tyrant. At this point, Wilbur and Tommy held a democratic election, and I think we all know how that went. During Wilbur's exile, he began to develop nihilistic tendencies, believing that death couldn't touch him. And I mean, in a way he wasn't wrong. On November 16th, also known as the Red Festival, he pressed the button and blew up L'Manberg. And in the process, he was killed by his canonical father, Filza, who had just joined the server 3 minutes prior. After this encounter, Wilbur has lost all of his 3 canon lives, and now he's Ghostbur, which is basically just a Wilbur with no memories. And very recently, after a failed resurrection, Ghostbur is now kind of fused with Schlatt. It's not really clear if this is a whole thing or just kind of a one-off, but it's there. I think Wilbur is one of the most complex characters on the SMP, and even though he's so complex, he still really fits into the chaotic, evil part. And that is only when he's the bad guy. Wilbur is so chaotic because he doesn't have a single reasoning for anything he did. He did not have a reason to blow up L'Manberg other than, you know, he didn't like the ruling at the time. Ghostbur also has a blue sheep which follows him around, which I think is a metaphor for Schlatt. I mean, it's not that subtle. Look at this. You can't say this isn't intended. Well, earlier I said Jay Schlatt might be my favorite member of the SMP. I think Dream might have to be my favorite character. In the very beginning of the SMP, every member resided under Dream. It paralleled the real world. The person with the best stuff had the most power. And as Dream slowly drifted into megalomania, a good portion of the server moved to a completely different country, where Dream had little to no power. Turns out he had enough power to build giant walls surrounding L'Manberg, isolating it from the rest of the server. From then on, Dream kept a firm grip on L'Manberg as a whole, until the citizens rebelled. On November 16th, the citizens of L'Manberg rebelled against both Dream and their own leader. This war eventually ended in the first destruction of L'Manberg, and even after that, Dream was still tightening his grip on the dying nation. It was around this point in time where Dream started to want actual destruction of L'Manberg, as he started to see society rebuilding itself, almost acquiring as much accumulative power as him. This is when he partnered with Techno and ended L'Manberg once and for all. But this just wasn't enough. Dream desired even more power over the populace, and the only way of doing that would be destroying the thing that meant most to people. The community house was the oldest building on the server, and Dream thought the best way to obtain power would be to destroy it and frame it on the supposed hero, Tommy. After this, Dream continued to torment Tommy until it reached its boiling point. On November 21st, Dream led Tommy and Tubbo to a mountain, thousands of blocks away. On that mountain, Dream presented Tommy with the discs, arguably the most desired items on the entire server. So obviously they started fighting for them, and Dream was winning far, far above both Tommy and Tubbo combined. So he presented Tommy with a choice. He would either follow him to a prison specifically constructed so that no one could ever get out, or he could get his discs back at the cost of Tubbo dying. He obviously chose the prison because at this point in time he did value people over discs. They descended into a vault with specific spots for each of the most valuable items on the server. I'll get into this part later, by the way. But at this point he presented Tommy with the choice again. He could either get the discs back, which were in Dream's possession at the time, or he could have Tubbo. But he couldn't choose in time, because practically the entire server rolled up on Dream and, ironically, imprisoned him in his own prison. Dream's constant pursuit of power led to his own demise. He is the epitome of megalomania. Even after the point where L'Manberg was turned into a crater, he continued to tighten his grip over the populace. Dream had been collecting each and every person's most desired and loved items. By doing so, he would have power over each and every member of the SMP, and he could use said power to manipulate every member of the SMP, getting them to do whatever he so pleased. I think Dream's character here is the perfect representation of a bad guy. He is objectively the villain of the server and always has been. He doesn't have a pacifism arc like Techno or Wilbur, and he doesn't have any good reasoning like Schlatt. And that's why I love the character. I think it is a perfect representation of antagonist, because it is textbook, plain and simple, and really easy to make a video essay about. Now, obviously there are more villains like Tubbo and Fundy, but they kind of fall in a gray area, and I simply didn't have enough time to cover them. I'm trying to upload once every month, and all the support I can get is appreciated. Thanks.